Welcome back to Free to Write. In Lesson 4, we're going to bust Cliche and talk about where to find fresh ideas. Congratulations! You've now reached a point in your writing where you show up to the page consistently. Maybe not every day yet, but you are putting together a body of work. Do you feel better about yourself? Are you enjoying this just a little bit more? Or does it still feel like drudgery? Like you could really benefit from some kind of artistic laxative to get you moving? Welcome to the club. Those two feelings of inspiration and constipation are not mutually exclusive. Ask any creative person. You can't be producing art all the time. There has to be a space between where you collect images and ideas that will later emerge. Am I making excuses? Letting you off the hook? Not at all. My intention here is to open you up to a realistic picture of what life as a writer is like, so that you can avoid the next block, turning to cliche, or worse yet, stopping writing at all. The truth is, you will have ups and downs, feast and famine, deluge and drought. You don't need to do anything about it except keep writing. That's all very well for when I'm producing, you say, but what about when I feel that I can't find anything to say? My answer is still the same. Keep writing. Keep plugging away. Let me tell you a story. I'm working with a young man on an anthology of stories. He arrived at our session yesterday, all apologies and excuses for his work. He had been so busy with life's demands that he had little time to devote to his writing. As we worked through his manuscript, and he's a very talented young writer, I noticed his work becoming more and more vague and cliche. I could almost see the outside world infringing on his inner voice. I asked him what parts of the story were giving him problems, and he admitted that he was not happy with the whole last half of the piece, but he had just felt compelled to keep going to get it done before we met, so he had slapped it together. Wasn't that just what I had instructed him to do? Fantastic, I exclaimed. He was noticeably surprised. But there's so much of it that I don't like. I agreed. There is quite a bit of vagueness and cliche, but you know what the beauty of this is? He raised his eyebrows. You have given us something to work on. We can go in there and fix the things that don't work. We wouldn't be able to do that if you hadn't completed the draft. But it all sounds so flat and ordinary, he said, discouraged. Not to worry, I encouraged him. Cliches are like placeholders. They fill the spots for our more original ideas to replace at a later draft. They are the costume jewelry that precedes the genuine pearl. Cliche. What is cliche? According to literary terms, cliche refers to an expression that has been overused to the extent that it loses its original meaning or novelty. When my young friend referred to his elderly character as older than the hills and dressed in her granny glasses, sturdy shoes, and a cane, he was using cliche. He needed to find something more authentic because that description came from his head, not from the character's heart. A cliche may also refer to actions and events that are predictable. In writing, I need to be particularly mindful of this. Current lingo is always referring to the narrative arc in literature. These arcs tie one episode together to the next. How many times have you read a book, watched a television show, or viewed a movie when the arcs were so predictable that you might as well not have watched the show at all? I drive my husband crazy when we're watching shows on television because I'm always one step ahead in the story. Most writers make their scripts so predictable, just regurgitating episodes of other stories they've seen. There's nothing smart or clever about it. All examples of cliche are expressions that were once new and fresh, but have now become overworn with use. Your challenge as a writer is to avoid cliche. So how do you do this? As I told my young friend, there is a simple how to it all. Be honest, be open, be willing. In his piece, my student struggled with two characters, the main character and an old woman whom he met that became pivotal in the story. Both characters were flat, intoning words spoken by my young man, not themselves. They moved through actions that seemed forced and lifeless. All it took to breathe life back into these characters, to wipe away the cliches, was backstory. Once my writer had taken the time to discover the backstory for each character, he suddenly became aware of their motivation and was able to allow them to exist on the page as creations in their own right, rather than puppets of his imagination. So, suggestion number 1, if you find yourself steeped in cliche, let go of the stiff reins holding each character in. Open yourself to their stories and be willing to allow them to tell it. You'll be surprised how much fun this simple exercise can be. I often find myself laughing at the things my characters do and say. I am frequently amused and amazed by what these folks who people my head come up with. It really is the most fun part of my work. What if the problem with cliche isn't restricted to the characters? What if you're turning to the obvious and overdone because you have nothing original to say? Let us get one thing totally clear. There are no new stories, images, anything under the sun. Someone, somewhere, has already said it. So you can let go of that right now. If this is your dilemma, I suggest you take the following steps. 1. Put on your sneakers and a hat and take a walk. There is no number 2. That's it. When you take yourself on a walk, you open yourself to the rhythm of your heartbeat. Your inner voice hears this rhythm and relaxes, starts to sing its own song. You may find yourself gazing down on a ladybug creeping across a leaf. A poem may bubble up in you. Or as you're walking and breathing, the snags in your story may untangle themselves and you'll hear a solution. New ideas crop up. I always take my phone with me on walks so that I can take notes or photograph things. Whatever, the walk is the encouragement I need to get my creative juices flowing. Being on a walk is all about looking and listening. If the weather is inclement, I'm often inclined to skip the outdoors and stay inside where I listen to music and dance and cook, always mindful of what I'm doing and how it feels. I suppose you could say that mindfulness is the antidote to cliche and block. If I'm truly mindful, out of myself and paying attention to the world around me, there is no room for block, no room for cliche. Everything is new again in that moment. Some of you may be put off by the word mindful. Not to worry. Try approaching life this way instead, as an experiment in play. We all know how to play, or used to. When we were children, the most natural thing in the world was to build tree forts and use sticks as rifles as we held a fake war. Those of us more peacefully inclined donned dress-ups and held imaginary tea parties in the woods, holding our flower blossom teacups in baggy gloves and tripping over our skirts in oversized high heels. Then our imaginations ran wild, unfettered by rules and judgment. Today, all we need to do is to return to that innocent state where every cloud held a story, and rainbows were magic, and Christmas brought miracles into our homes. So how can a grown person far from childhood play today? I'm not talking about playing golf or attending a wine party to paint a picture. I mean, go out of your comfort zone. Dare to do something wildly extravagant, so completely different from your own daily fare. Have you always loved horses but haven't ridden one for years? Go back, find a farm, climb in the saddle, and see if the smells, the feel, the taste of the experience doesn't awaken something in you that has been lost. Love music but haven't sung in years? At Christmas time, join in a Messiah sing and sing along. I defy you not to be moved. What about simpler things? Make a recipe you've never tried before without caring about the result. Go to a store and try on clothes and twirl as you gaze in the mirror. Race down the beach and jump into the waves. Jump into a pile of leaves. Throw snowballs. Swing. You get the idea? Have fun. The more you enjoy your life, the more you will have to bring to your writing. Here are our last few suggestions if my previous ones have not resonated with you. If you are looking for story ideas or new ways to say things, try these. Have tea with a friend and listen. Walk around a bookstore and gaze on titles. Read a few jackets. Read a newspaper. Take a yoga or meditation class. Visit an art gallery. Spend time with animals. Research the major events in a chosen time period. Go to church. Be still. All of these examples are ways that I have been led into writing my novels, poetry, memoirs, screenplays, except the two that were adaptations of books, short stories, and plays. As a writer, I have cultivated being present in my surroundings. When I am present, the universe gives me the greatest gift of all, inspiration. It can work that way for you too. So, take away from today's talk. Cliche is something to avoid. It's okay to be cliche in your first draft, but to have your writing be fresh and new, you must eliminate it from your further copies. 2. Writing backstory is a good way to remove cliche from characters. 3. When looking for a new idea, walk. It's usually a source of inspiration. 4. Play is another way to enrich your life and make your writing more interesting. 5. When looking for new story ideas, try being present in all areas of your life. Inspiration will come. That's all for today. Until next time.